Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel Learning Point. This is Palak Jain and today we are going to understand about Minimum Wages Act 1948. So guys, this act is very long and there are so many sections and subsections in this act. So I will try to explain it in a precise and brief manner. Otherwise, video will be so long. But I will request you all to read the slide completely to have a better understanding. This Minimum Wages Act 1948. So it is an Indian labor law which provides the power to central and state government to fix minimum rates of wages and periodically revise it for workers in scheduled employments. Scheduled employments क्या हैं वो हम आगे वीडियो में समझेंगे. And its primary objective is to protect workers from exploitation. Introduction of the Act. So, Minimum Wages Bill was introduced in the Central Legislative Assembly on 11th of April 1946 to provide for fixation of wages in certain employments, and it was passed in 1946 and came into force with effect from 15th of March 1948. Now we'll see application of the Act. So this act is extended to whole of India और ये act scheduled employments पर apply होता है. And in certain cases, appropriate government can extend it to any other employments. Now we'll understand some important definitions related to the act. Appropriate government. Central government कहाँ पर appropriate government होती है? Scheduled employment carried on by or under the authority of central government or railway administration, or in relation to mine, oil field or major port, or any corporation established by a central act. इन सभी जगहों पर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट होती है. और बाकी सारे स्केड्यूल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट एप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट होती है. शेड्यूल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट. शेड्यूल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट वो होते हैं जो शेड्यूल में स्पेसिफाइड हैं और ये शेड्यूल दो पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड हैं. पार्ट 1 में जो एम्प्लॉयमेंट्स दिए हैं वो आप स्क्रीन पर देख सकते हैं एंड दे आर employment in any woolen carpet making or shawl weaving establishment, employment in any rice mill, flour mill or dal mill, employment in any tobacco, including beedi making, manufacturing, employment in any plantation, that is to say, any state which is maintained for the purpose of growing chona, rubber, tea or coffee, employment in any oil mill, employment under any local authority, employment on the construction or maintenance of roads, employment in stone breaking or stone crushing, employment in any mica works, employment in public motor transport, employment in tannery and leather manufacturing. तो schedule employment के part 1 में ये सारे employments listed हैं और पार्ट 2 में एग्रीकल्चर से रिलेटेड एम्प्लॉयमेंट्स होते हैं. वो कौन कौन से हैं? एम्प्लॉयमेंट इन एग्रीकल्चर, दैट इज टू से एनी फॉर्म ऑफ farming including the cultivation and tillage of the soil, dairy farming, the production, cultivation, growing and harvesting of any agriculture or horticulture commodity, the raising of livestock, bees or poultry, and any practice performed by a farmer or on a farm as incidental to or in conjunction with farm operation, including any forestry or timbering operations and the preparation for market and delivery to storage or to market or to carriage for transportation to market of farm produce. Now we'll understand about wages. Wages means all remuneration. Remuneration means a payment made to somebody for the work they have done, which is capable of being expressed in terms of money. Wages means all remuneration which is capable of being expressed in terms of money. which would if the terms of contract of employment expressed or implied. Expressed or implied means व्यक्त या निहित है. Person को पे किया जाता है in respect of his employment or work done, and it also includes house rent allowance. Now, it is very important to know that wages do not include the value of any house accommodation, supply of light, water, medical attendance, any other amenity. Amenity means features, services, or convenience that make a place more comfortable, attractive, or enjoyable. So any other amenity or any service excluded by general or special order of the appropriate government, any contribution paid by the employer to any pension fund or provident fund or insurance, ये भी wages में include नहीं होगा. Any traveling allowance or value of any traveling concession, ये भी include नहीं होगा wages में. Any sum paid to the person employed to defray special expenses entailed on him by the nature of his employment. कोई भी सम जो एम्प्लॉय को पे किया गया है टू मीट स्पेशल एक्सपेंसेस जो कि इन्वॉल्व है एम्प्लॉयमेंट में ड्यू टू नेचर ऑफ वर्क, तो वो अमाउंट भी इंक्लूड नहीं होगा वेजेस में. एनी ग्रेचुटी पेबल ऑन डिस्चार्ज, ये भी वेजेस में इंक्लूड नहीं होगी. Employ. So, employ means any person who is employed for hire or reward to do any work, skilled or unskilled, manual or electrical, in a scheduled employment, in respect of which minimum rates of wages have been fixed. And it also includes an outworker. So, outworker means a person who works away from their employer's premises. An employee declared to be an employee by the appropriate government वो भी employee होता है under this act. लेकिन कोई भी आर्म्ड फोर्स का मेंबर एम्प्लॉय नहीं कहलाता है अंडर मिनिमम वेजेस एक्ट 1948. And the definition of employee in this act is wide enough to include a person working on job basis or piece work basis as an employer. So employer means any person who employs one or more employees directly or through other person in a scheduled employment for which minimum rates of wages have been fixed. और एम्प्लॉयर की डेफिनेशन में कौन कौन इंक्लूड होता है? मैनेजर ऑफ द फैक्ट्री, person appointed by the appropriate government, CEO of the company, and person responsible to the owner. ये सभी लोग एम्प्लॉयर में आएंगे अंडर मिनिमम वेजेस एक्ट 1948. वेज स्ट्रक्चर. वेज स्ट्रक्चर को 3 कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड किया गया है. बेसिक मिनिमम वेजेस विच प्रोवाइड्स वेयर सब्सिस्टेंस, जिसमें सिर्फ गुजारा होता है एम्प्लॉय का. ये लोएस्ट वेज होती है जो एम्प्लॉयर को लीगली पे करनी ही होती है एम्प्लॉय को. फेयर वेजेस फॉल्स बिटवीन द मिनिमम वेजेस एंड द लिविंग वेजेस. इसमें एम्प्लॉय का सिर्फ गुजारा नहीं होता बल्कि लेवल ऑफ कंफर्ट और इकोनॉमिक सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइड करती है एम्प्लॉय को. Fair wages is influenced by factors like industry's ability to pay to prevailing wages, similar jobs में, and national economic conditions. Living wages. So living wages से worker afford कर सकता है decent standard of living including basic necessities like food, housing and healthcare plus some discretionary spending. So discretionary spending is money spent on non-essential wants that can be adjusted, cut or eliminated without affecting core operations or daily life. Example, entertainment, hobbies and vacations. It goes beyond mere subsistence and its calculation is based on regional cost of living, family size, and the cost of various goods and services. It enables a worker and their family to live with dignity, health, and well-being. Now we'll understand fixation of minimum rates of wages under Minimum Wages Act 1948. So, appropriate government has the power to fix the minimum rates of wages in the manner prescribed under the Act. और जो पार्ट 1 और पार्ट 2 में एम्प्लॉयमेंट स्पेसिफाइड है उनके लिए मिनिमम रेट्स ऑफ वेजेस को अप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट फिक्स करेगी। लेकिन जो पार्ट 2 में लिस्टेड शेड्यूल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट्स हैं तो उनके लिए मिनिमम रेट्स ऑफ वेजेस पूरे स्टेट के लिए फिक्स करने की बजाय एप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट पार्ट ऑफ द स्टेट के लिए भी मिनिमम रेट्स ऑफ वेजेस फिक्स कर सकती है। Appropriate government shall review and revise the minimum rates of wages at intervals it may think fit, लेकिन वो इंटरवल 5 years से ज़्यादा एक्सीड नहीं होना चाहिए। कोई भी स्केड्यूल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट जिसमें 1000 से कम एम्प्लॉयज काम कर रहे हैं तो अप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट रिफ्रेन कर सकती है फ्रॉम फिक्सिंग मिनिमम रेट्स ऑफ वेजेस फॉर सच स्केड्यूल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट। लेकिन जैसे ही अप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट फाइंड आउट करती है कि नंबर ऑफ एम्प्लॉयज 1000 से ज़्यादा हो गए हैं या 1000 हो गए हैं तो अप्रोप्रिएट गवर्नमेंट मिनिमम रेट्स ऑफ वेजेस फिक्स कर देती है फॉर एम्प्लॉयज वर्किंग इन सच scheduled employment. Section 3 subsection 2 provides that government may fix a minimum rate of wages for time work and it is known as minimum time rate, a minimum rate of wages for piecework and it is known as a minimum piece rate. और एम्प्लॉयज जो पीस वर्क के बेसिस पर एम्प्लॉयड हैं तो उनको भी मिनिमम रिम्यूनरेशन मिले ऑन टाइम वर्क बेसिस गवर्नमेंट ये एश्योर करती है तो गवर्नमेंट ने उनके लिए गारंटीड टाइम रेट फिक्स किया है। ओवर टाइम विच इज पेड फॉर ओवर टाइम वर्क डन बाय एम्प्लॉयज। In fixing or revising minimum rates of wages under Section 3, different minimum rates of wages may be fixed for different scheduled employments, different class of work in the same scheduled employment, adults, adolescents, children and apprentices, and different localities. Minimum rates of wages may be fixed by one or more of the following wage periods, namely by the hour, by day, by month, by such other longer wage period as may be prescribed. Section 4 provides that any minimum rates of wages fixed or revised by the appropriate government in respect of scheduled employment under Section 3 may consist of minimum rates of wages should consist of basic rates of wages plus cost of living allowance or basic rates of wages with or without the cost of living allowance plus cash value of the concession in respect of supplies of essential commodities at concession rate or all inclusive rate allowing for the basic rates of wages plus cost of living allowance plus cash value of the concession in respect of supply of essential commodities at concession rate. Procedure for fixing and revising minimum wages. So method 1 is committee method. In this approach, the government appoints a tripartite committee to investigate and provide recommendations on minimum wage rates. So firstly, government appoints various committees. So firstly, government forms a committee and several subcommittees to advise on minimum wage matters. This body includes representatives of employers, employees, and independent persons in equal measure, with one independent person serving as the chairman. Inquiry and data collection. The committee conducts extensive research and collects relevant data on factors that influence wage determination and these factors include cost of living, economic conditions, prevailing wage rates, work duration, and productivity levels. Second step is all about inquiry and collecting of data. So third one is stakeholder consultation. So committee consults with stakeholders such as trade unions and employer association to gather their views. Fourth step is recommendation and report. So based on its finding and consultation, the committee prepares a report with its recommendation and then it submits it to the government. And last step is government decision and notification. So the government reviews the committee's recommendation and by an official notification in the Gazette sets or revises the minimum wages. Second method is notification method. In this method, government directly publishes its proposals for public consideration to determine minimum rates of wages. So first step is publishing proposals. Government publishes its proposals for minimum wage rates in the official gazette to inform all affected parties और specify करती है date at least 2 months away by which all feedback must be submitted. Second step is consulting the advisory board. If the government uses this method to revise wages, it must also consult the advisory board. This board is a tripartite body that advises the government on minimum wage matters and coordinates the work of other committees. Third step is considering representations. The government considers all public representations received before the specified deadline. And the last step is final notification. So, after reviewing the feedback, the government publishes the final revised wage rates in the official gazette. Unless stated otherwise, the new rates take effect 3 months after notification is issued. Section 7 is Advisory Board. The appropriate government shall, according to Section 7, appoint an advisory board for the purpose of coordinating the work of committees and subcommittees appointed under Section 5 and advising the appropriate government in the matter of fixing and revising minimum rates of wages. So, government appoints advisory board for coordinating the work of committees and subcommittees and for advising the appropriate government in the matter of fixing and revising minimum rates of wages. Section 8, Central Advisory Board. Section 8 makes it obligatory upon central government to appoint the Central Advisory Board for the following purposes. So, central government appoints Central Advisory Board for advising the central and state government in the matters for fixation and revision of minimum rates of wages and other matters under the Act and for coordinating the work of advisory board. Section 11 Wages in kind. The minimum wages payable under this Act shall be paid in cash. So, minimum wages should be paid in cash. But if the appropriate government is of the opinion that provisions should be made for the supply of essential commodities at concessional rates, then it may, by notification in the official gazette, authorize the provision of such supplies at concessional rates. Section 30 Fixing hours of normal working day. So, appropriate government fix the number of hours of work which shall constitute a normal working day, and it also includes one or more specified intervals. And appropriate governments also provides a day of rest in every period of 7 days shall be allowed to all employees. And if any employee works on the day of rest, then the payment for work on the day of rest should not be less than overtime rate. Section 15 Wages of workers who works for less than normal working day. Employer shall pay the wages for full working day. Failure to work is caused by employee's unwillingness to work. Employee चाहते ही नहीं है काम करना. In such other case and circumstances as may be prescribed. तो इन केसेस को छोड़कर एम्प्लॉयर को फुल नॉर्मल वर्किंग डे की वेजेस देनी ही होगी एम्प्लॉय को। सेक्शन 18 मेंटेनेंस ऑफ रजिस्टर्स एंड records. So section 18 requires that every employee shall maintain registers and record giving particular of employee employed by him, the work performed by employee, the wages paid to them and receipts given. And under section 18, subsection 3, the appropriate government provides the issue of wage books or wage slips and prescribe the manner in which entry shall be made in the wage books or wage slips and authenticated by employer or his agent. Section 20 claims. Section 20, subsection 1 empowers the appropriate government to appoint by notification in the official gazette an authority to hear and decide for any specified area of the following claims. So, any claim arising out of payment of less than minimum rates of wages, any claim in respect of the payment of remuneration for day of rest, or any claim of wages at the overtime rate under section 14. So, to hear and decide about all these claims, the appropriate government appoints an authority. The following may be appointed as authority to decide any claim as aforesaid: any commissioner for workmen's compensation, any officer of the central government exercising functions as a labor commissioner for any region, any officer of central government exercising functions as a labor commissioner for any region, any officer of the state government not below the rank of a labor commissioner, any other officer with experience as a judge of civil court or as stipendiary magistrate. Offences and penalties. Under this Act, employer who violate the Act can face penalties, including imprisonment for up to 6 months and fine of up to rupees 500 or both. Thank you so much for watching.